Shall I just start? Yeah, I guess we have some more people here, so I'll just start. Great. Good afternoon, all, and welcome to this Uyghur Transnational Justice Database panel discussion. My name is Muattad Ilikut, and I am the head of communication for the Norwegian Uyghur Committee, also a project assistant for the Uyghur Transnational Justice Database.
Tercüme kılımız var değil mi? Okay. Program başlandı. Program riyasetçimiz Muattad özünü tanıştırıvatıdı. Şu xalqaralık Uyghur Adalet Arxivinin yardımcısı ikenligini ve bu programda riyasetçilik kılganlığını düşündürüvatıdı.
It is a great pleasure for me to participate in this panel with our guests and also you to this event. Thank you all for investing your time with us on a Friday afternoon. Today we have an open panel on the Uyghur Tribunal, where we will be talking about the testimony submission and fundraising of the tribunal organized by UTGD and the UT, which is the Uyghur Tribunal.
Hammalar programımıza hoş geldiniz. Bu cemaatga oçuq program. Bu programda köprek şu Uyghur qırğınçılıq sot kollegiyasi hakkında tanıştırış verimiz ve bu sot kollegiyasi için qandaq guvalıqlar kerak, sot kollegiyasının muvaffaqiyatli işleyiş için qandaq maliye toplayımız, iqtisadi yardım toplayımız, bu şaqalarda toxtalımız.
Thank you. I can start with a short introduction of the UTGD itself. The Uyghur Transnational Justice Database is an ongoing project that focuses on the registration of the disappeared and extrajudicially interned Uyghurs in East Turkestan. We're building a comprehensive database to document the ongoing atrocities being committed by the CCP toward the Uyghurs since the revision of its legislation in 2017 to allow local governments to educate and transform people influenced by extremism at so-called vocational training centers, also known as concentration camps.
Aldılar şu Uyghur Milli Adalet Arxivi deb tercüme qilib turay. Musha qisqacha tanishtirib o'tay. Bizning bu adalet musha Xitoylar 2017-yildan keyin bizning vatanimizda yurgizgan jazo lagerlar tüzümeden keyin yo'qolib ketgan Uyg'urlar haqida sonliq ma'lumot turg'izish, Xitoy shu Kommunist partiyaning bevosita ziyonkashligiga uchragan, anadan keyin jazo lagerlarida xilma-xil yo'qolib ketgan va har xil zulmga duchor bo'lgan Uyg'urlarning ahvoli haqida doklad turg'izish ishlarni qilamiz.
The UTGD has organized this panel to present the Uyghur Tribunal to the whole Uyghur community, human rights organizations, and other concerned individuals who are devoted to seeking accountability for human rights violations against the Uyghurs and other Turkic people.
Bizning bu qurilishimiz şu Uyghur sot kollegiyasi, Uyg'urlarning avvalo ko'ngil bilgan kishilik huquq tashkilotlari shular bilan birlashib shu programni biz o'rinlashtiryapmiz.
We're going to have a Q&A session. It means that everyone participating in this panel can post your question on the chat box, and I will take care of them. And I'd like to mention that I might not gonna include every single question due to the time limit, but I will try my best, and please feel free to write to us on the chat box.
Programning oxirida savol va javob qismi bor. Shu fikir bayon qilish qutisiga so'raydigan savollaringlar bo'lsa shu yo'llab bersanglar, butun barliq savollarga qarab chiqishga tirishimiz. Hamma savollarni o'qib bo'la olishimizni atayin, lekin aktiv fikir qatnashtirishinglarni qarshi olamiz.
First of all, let's welcome our panelists, Sir Jeffrey Knights and Mr. Nick Watch, and our interpreter, Mr. Mehmet Tohti. I can start with introducing Sir Jeffrey Knights. Sir Jeffrey Nice is the chairman of this tribunal. He has been a barrister since 1971 and served as a part-time judge in England between 1984 and 2018. He was also a chairman of the China Tribunal, an independent tribunal into forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience in China.
Aldı bilen şu program katlaşkan panelistlarını tanıştırıp ötey. Cenab-ı Jeffrey Nice efendi uzun müddetlik hem tecrübeli avukat hem sotçu bulup xalqaro organlarda işleyen. Yakında şu Xitay sot kollegiyası namıda Xitay hükümetinin insanların organlarını setişten ibaret şu dialoga qaragan bu programımız katlaşıvatıdı.
And then we have Mr. Nick Welch. He is the vice chair of the tribunal. Mr. Welch established the Uyghur Tribunal together with Sir Jeffrey. He is a Mr. Welch is a London-based businessman. He is engaged in a range of NGOs, particularly in the field of human rights. He was also a member of the China Tribunal earlier.
Yana bir panelistimiz, jığın qatnaşqıçımız Nick Welch efendi, şu Uyghur sotunun muavin riyasatçısı, şundaqla şu Londonda o'ltiraqlashgan ticaretçi ve nurg'un kishilik huquqqa munosabatlik nurg'un şu xalqaroliq faaliyatlarga qatnashib kelgan.
Yes, and then we have Mr. Mehmet Tohti. He's the Executive Director of Uyghur Advocacy Project, and he is based in Ottawa.
Yana birisi men, Uyg'urlarning haq-huquqini himoya qilish programmasining direktori, men Ottawa turman.
Yes, let's give the word to Sir Jeffrey Nice and Mr. Welch, please.
Good afternoon.
Tushdan keldikinlar xayrlik bo'lsin.
The Uyghur Tribunal is a people's tribunal.
Uyghur sot kollegiyasi xalqning sot kollegiyasi.
These tribunals are entirely informal.
Yani bu sot kollegiyasi gayri rasmi.
They have no powers to punish anybody who they may find to have committed crimes.
Yani bu sot kollegiyasi cinayet ispatlangan insanlarni yani cezalaş undaq bir funksiyasiga ega emas.
They come to be because big questions that need answering will sometimes never be answered by national or international legal bodies.
Bu xalq sotining maydon kelishining sababi nurg'un xalqaroliq masalalarda davlatlar va xalqaroliq organlar javob berishiga tegishli xalqaro masalalarga javob berolmagani uchun bu xalq soti maydon kelgan.
The way in which China treats some of its constituent groups, Falun Gong practitioners or Uyghurs or both, is something national and international legal bodies will not have the courage to deal with.
Bulupmu Xitay hükümetining mayli Falun Gonglarga bo'lsin yoki Uyg'urlarga tutgan hozirgi muomalasini xalqarodagi nurg'un organlar va qonuniy shu qurilishlar tekshirishda jasorat ko'rsatmay, ya'ni jasoratli harakat qilolmayapti.
And so it was that Mr. Vetch and I and others worked on something called the China Tribunal, which considered forced organ harvesting of prisoners of conscience, principally Falun Gong practitioners, but also some Uyghurs.
Muşundaq qavalda men və mənim həmradaşım Nick'lə bərabər olubmu Xitay hökumətinin şu insanların orqanlarını məcburi yetkəb setiş məsələsi çetişli qaldı. Falun Gong asas qilgan va Uyg'urlarni o'z ichiga olgan shunday delolarga qarab xalq sudi qurish fikri o'tirib chiqqan.
The judgment of that tribunal, delivered in June of last year and in full written form in March of this year, has had some considerable effect.
Yani bu xalq sud kollegiyasi o'tgan yil 6 ayda o'zining hukmnomasini e'lon qildi va hukmnomaning yozma shakllik bo'lim bo'lsa bu yil mart oyida e'lon qilindi. Bu hukmnoma e'lon qilingandan keyin dunyoda ko'z ko'rinarli ta'sir qo'zg'adi.
But Mr. Vetch and I thought that the tribunal had not heard as much evidence about the Uyghurs as it would have liked, as we would have liked.
Yani Vetch efendi bilan men shu nuqtani tonib yetdikki, bu sud kollegiyasi bo'lib Uyg'urlar masalasi kelganda anglashga tegishlik yoki anglash zarur deb qaralgan ko'plagan shu dalil isbotlarni u sud kollegiyasi vaqtida anglash fursatimiz bo'lmaganligini his qilib yetdik.
We were then, a little later, asked by the World Uyghur Congress to establish a People's Tribunal to consider the treatment of Uyghurs by the People's Republic of China through the China Communist Party.
Ondan keyin Dünya Uyg'ur Qurultayı tarafidan bizga bir taklif keldi. O'sha Xitoy hukumatining Uyg'urlarga qaratgan hozirgi siyosati haqida shunday bir sud kollegiyasi qurib bu masalaga qarab chiqish haqida.
The tribunal will hear evidence from all possible available sources and will decide whether crimes have been committed against the Uyghur people, and if so, which crimes.
And hazır bu tribunal yani sud kollegiyamiz kuruldu. Bu sud kollegiyamiz bütün manbalardan keladigan dalillar qarab chiqadi va uni anglab chiqadi. Eng oxirida shu dalillar asosida Uyg'urlarga nisbatan bir jinoiy qilmish sodir qilindimi? Qilingan bo'lsa bu jinoiy qilmishlarning xarakteri nima? Mo'shiningga hukm qilamiz.
The tribunal members will come from different walks of life, will have no will not have decided anything about the treatment of the Uyghur people, and will approach the question facing them objectively.
Bu Uyghur sud kollegiyasining a'zolari shu har sohadagi insonlardan tashkil topgan. Yani bizning hozir shu Xitoy hukumatining Uyg'urlarga qaratgan sodir qilgan qilmishlar haqida hech qanday hukmimiz oldin ola berilgan bir hukmimiz yo'q. Biz hammani anglaymiz, faktlarga qaraymiz, uning qarta hukm chiqaramiz.
We expect the judgment of this tribunal, as with the judgment of the China tribunal, to be effective in helping governments and other bodies form opinions about what happens in China.
Bu Uyg'ur sud kollegiyasining chiqargan hukmi xuddi burungi Xitoy sud kollegiyasining chiqargan hukmiga o'xshash. Başka davlat va boshqa organlarning Xitoy haqidagi siyosatlari va Xitoyga tutgan muomalasini o'zgartirishda nihoyatda kuchli ta'siri bo'ldi deb qaraymiz.
And then to make decisions of the kind that affect the people in China, including the Uyghurs, on the basis of that knowledge and information.
Biz chiqargan bu hukmnomadan keyin shu hukmnomada o'tirib qo'yilgan uchurlar va bu hukmni berishda ishlatilgan faktlarga asosan biz chiqargan hukmnoma shuni bilan nurg'un davlatlarning bundan keyin Xitoyga nisbatan texmi yaxshi qaror berishiga yaxshi rol o'ynaydi.
the tribunal members and senior members of the tribunal who run the tribunal are working without pay or reward of any kind, and this ensures that their judgment will be seen as objective and to be trusted.
Yani bu Uyghur Sot Kollegiyasının peshqadam a'zolari va shu Sot Kollegiyasi qatnashgan asosli a'zolar hammasi bekor ishlaydi. Yani biz buni bu Sot Kollegiyasini Sot Kollegiyasida ishlaganimiz uchun bir yerdan bir mukofot kutmaymiz. Bu yerdagi bundoq bo'lishining birdan bir maqsadi biz chiqargan qarorning va hukmning obyektiv bo'lishi, faktga asos bo'lishi, taraf tutmasligi. Shuning uchun biz tarafsizlikni saqlash uchun bekor ishlaymiz.
But my last sentence, the operation needs money to investigate, to take witness statements, to have hearings, hopefully in person with witnesses addressing the tribunal. And that money comes from many sources, first from the World Uyghur Congress, but now from many other sources, perhaps as Mr. Vetch, who will follow me, can explain.
Shundoq bo'lsin, biz garchi biz bekor ishlasakmi deydi. Shundoq bir sot kollegiyasini muvaffaqiyatli elib berish uchun nurg'un pulga ehtiyojimiz bor. Bu pullar bu sot kollegiyasi elib borgan dalillarni tekshirish, andan keyin guvohchilarning guvohligini anglash, hatto bir qatim sot o'tkazish, qonuniy jihatdan tadqiqot elib berish degandek bizdan boshqa yana nurg'un insonlar buning ishlagani uchun bu ishlarni muvaffaqiyatli elib berish uchun iqtisodga ehtiyojimiz bor. Hozirgacha bu iqtisodiy jihatdan Dunyo Uyg'ur qurultiyi ko'p yordamlarni qilib keldi. Shunlashqa uningdan boshqa yana kam qolgan yerlarga boshqa manbadan keladigan iqtisodiy yordamlarning bo'lishini xohlaymiz. Yani qolgan nuqtalarni Nikvach efendi izohlaydi.
Can I suggest, Moita, that we go into the questions and then I'll come back to...
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure, that's okay.
Suallarni anglagandan keyin javob bersam bo'lamdi.
Great, then we can just jump right into the question session. The first question is actually already partially explained, but not all of them, so I'll just repeat it again. This is more like a clarification question, because there are some people in the Uyghur community who might have misunderstood the tribunal's independency. So could you please explain the relationship or connection between the World Uyghur Congress and the Uyghur Tribunal, and what kind of what role does the World Uyghur Congress play in this tribunal?
Birinci sual deydi. Şu Dünya Uyghur Qurultiyi bilan Sot Kollegiyasining munosabati haqida so'ralgan savol ekan. Ya'ni Sot Kollegiyasi bilan Dünya Uyghur Qurultiyining munosabati nima? Dünya Uyghur Qurultiyi bu Sot Kollegiyasining butun bu jarayonlarda qanday rol o'ynaydi? Savolmish ekan.
So on the 29th of June of this year, Dolkanisa, who is the chairman of the World Uyghur Congress, invited Sir Geoffrey to form this tribunal.
Go ahead, Nick, and let me.
To consider the allegations that are being made against the PRC in regard to their treatment of the Uyghur people.
Şu 6 ayının 29 günü Dünya Uyg'ur Qurultiyining raisi Dolkanisa efendi Cenab-ı Jeff Nice efendiga bilan aloqa qilib Xitoy hukumatining hozir Uyg'urlarga olib borgan ziyonkashligi haqida bir tekshirib, shu haqida bir sot kollegiyasi qurish imkoni bor yo'qligini surishtirib uchur aloqa qilgan. Bu ishning boshlanishi shu.
And Sir Geoffrey accepted that on the clear understanding that the Uyghur Tribunal would be a completely independent body.
Bu Kurultay reisi oturup koygan teklifni Geoffrey Nice efendi qabul qildi. Qabul qilganda, yani şu kurulmakçı bo'lgan Uyg'ur sot kollegiyasining tamamen mustaqil va tarafsiz bir sot kollegiyasi bo'lganligini alayda ta'kidlagan.
And indeed, although the Uyghur World Congress, along with many other organizations now, have provided considerable amounts of evidence, that is the limit of their involvement.
Şuna bo'lganda Dünya Uyg'ur Qurultiyi bo'lsin yoki boshqa Uyg'ur tashkilotlari bo'lsin, hozirgacha ko'zga ko'rinarli dalillarni bizga yetkazib berdi. Dünya Uyg'ur Qurultiyining boshqa aralashishining yana bir tarafimi o'sha dalil ta'minlash.
Except in regard, as has been stated, with the provision of some financing, along with a number and many other organizations and individuals who have also provided money.
Yana bir tarafdan Dünya Uyg'ur Qurultiyi ko'z ko'rinarli miqdorda shu sot kollegiyasining ishlashi uchun iqtisodiy jihatdan yordam beryapti. Shunga o'xshash boshqa Uyg'ur tashkilotlari va boshqa shaxslarmi sot kollegiyasiga aralıq shaklda iyona bir yordam qilyapti.
So it must be understood that the tribunal will consider the evidence that is provided to it and make its judgment, its determination, only on the evidence and nothing else.
Shunasi aniq bo'lish kerakki, Uyg'ur sot kollegiyasi qo'limizga kelgan ishonchli dalillarga qarab, shu dalillarga qarab turib va dalillarni baholab turib, shu dalillar asosida qaror chiqaramiz. Bu qarorimiz boshqa hech qanday bir narsaning ta'sirida qolmagan tarafsiz qaror bo'ldi.
I hope that answers the question.
Yes. Thank you.
Savolga javobim shu.
All right, we can hope to the next question. There are some people in the Uyghur community hoping that, or saying that we should raise the issue and bring the CCP to the International Criminal Court in Den Haag. And do you think this could be possible? And also, what is the difference between the judgment issued by the Uyghur Tribunal and the ICC? Like also that if China is convicted to be committed crime against humanity or genocide, what consequences do we expect for China? And how will these affect government over national organizations such as UN bodies and the Uyghur people?
İkinci sual, şu Uyghur Sot Kollegiyasi bilan xalqaro jinoyat yoki xalqaro adolat divonining munosabati haqidagi savol ekan. Yana so'ralgan savol, bu ikki organ yoki xalqaro jinoyat mahkamasi bilan Uyg'ur Sot Kollegiyasi qanday farq qildi? Bular e'lon qilgan hukmnoma o'rtasida qanday farqlar bor? Xitoy hukumatining hozir Uyg'urlar qarata ilib borgan jinoyatlarini milliy qirg'inchilik va insoniyatga qarshi ishlangan jinoyat deb qarayapmiz. Shuna bo'lganda, mushundaq bir jinoiy qilmish haqida Xitoyni xalqaro sudga tortish imkoniyati bormi degandek mushaqqatli savol.
Two parts of the answer. Me first on the International Criminal Court.
Bu savolning ikki javobining ikki qismi bor. Birisi xalqaro jinoiy adolat divoni yoki xalqaro jinoyat mahkamasiga munosabatlik.
It is at present almost impossible for the People's Republic of China, or to be precise, any individuals from the People's Republic of China or its Communist Party to be taken to the International Criminal Court.
Shuni men aniq deyishim kerak. Hozirgi mavjud sharoitda Xitoy Kommunist Partiyasi ya Xitoy Xalq Cumhuriyatining şu Xitay Xalq Cumhuriyeti'deki asaslık şahslarının yoki Xitay Komünist Partiyadagi asaslık şahslarning, ya'ni bu Uyg'urlar qilingan ishlangan jinoyat bilan munosabatli shaxslarning hozirgi mavjud shartlar ostida xalqaro jinoyat mahkamasida sotlanishi mumkin emas.
China is not a state that is a party of the International Criminal Court, and that means that it is essentially impossible for the court to deal with crimes occurring within China.
Birincisi, Xitay Xalq Cumhuriyeti bu xalqaro jinoyat sud mahkamasiga a'zo emas yoki uningga tarafdor davlat emas. Shundoq bo'lgani uchun, ya'ni Xitoy bu xalqaro jinoyat sudining huquqini qabul qilgan davlat emas. Shu sababdan Xitoyni u yerda sudga tortish mumkin emas.
Even if there was the willingness by any other nation state to try to take the People's Republic of China to the International Criminal Court, the effort or attempt would fail because it would not get past the Security Council on which China sits and at which it holds the power of veto.
İkinci tarafı deyli ki ma'lum bir davlat Xitoyni sudga berishdan iborat shu deloni ustiga kelib buni xalqaro jinoyat mahkamasiga yo'lladi degan taqdirdami bu da'voning davomlashishi uchun Birlashgan Davlatlar Tashkiloti bexatarlik kengashining tasdiqi ma'qulligi bo'lishi kerak hozirgi mavjud shartlar ostida. Xitoy Birlashgan Davlatlar Tashkilotining rad qilish huquqi va 5 davlatning birisi bo'lgani uchun, ya'ni bu o'tkaldan o'tishning o'zi mumkin emas. Shunlashqa Xitoyni hozirgi sharoitda o'sha xalqaro jinoyat sudiga berish imkoniyati yo'q.
Perhaps Nick would like to explain what, given that nothing can come from the International Criminal Court, we might get from a judgment of the Uyghur Tribunal if, but only if, it is adverse to China.
Belki bu hakada Nick Efendi tushuntirishlarni berishi mumkin nima deb shu Uyg'urlarning masalasida xalqaro jinoyat mahkamasidan hech qanday qaror chiqish imkonining yo'qligi va Uyg'ur sudidan chiqqan qarorning bo'lsa qanday bo'lganligi haqida balki Nick Efendi biroz tushuntirish bersin.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. The allegations that have been made against the PRC include a wide range of criminal acts, including forced imprisonment, forced sterilization, forced separation of children from their parents, sexual violence, enslavement, and others. And the China Tribunal will consider each of these allegations on the evidence only. And then it will decide, depending on its determination, whether these crimes constitute either or both crimes against humanity and or genocide.
Hozir Xitoy Xalq Cumhuriyetiga qaratilgan ayblashlar ichida ko'plagan ayblashlar bor. Buning ko'plari ig'ir jinoiy qilmishlar kategoriyasiga kiradigan jinoiy qilmishlar hisoblanadi. Masalan, Uyg'urlar nimalarni insonlarni o'ldirish, insonlarni majburiy turmalarga va lagerlarga solash, andan keyin insonlarni tug'mas qilish, andan keyin bolalar ota-onalarni orib o'tish, insonlarni qulluq qilish, jinsiy jihatdagi har xil zo'ravonlik qatorliq nurg'ulg'a ayblashlar bor. Hamda bizning Uyg'ur sud mahkamasi mushu ayblashlar haqidagi dalillarga birdan-bir qarab chiqish orqali mushu dalillar asosida, dalillarga asoslanib turib qaror berib, bergan qarori bilan yuqorida sanab o'tgan bu jinoyatlarning insoniyat qarshi ishlangan jinoyat kategoriyasiga kiramdi yoki milliy qirg'inchilik kategoriyasiga kiramdi yo har ikkisiga kiramdi. Mushu haqida qaror beramiz.
So then this raises the question as to what use could the judgment, depending on the outcome of the judgment, be put to?
Ondan keyin savol chiqishi mumkin. Unda bo'lsa bu chiqargan hukmnomaning ahamiyati nima?
The job of the tribunal is to produce the judgment. It is then for others to use it, but it has three potential purposes.
Bizning bu Uyg'ur sud kollegiyasining birdan-bir maqsadi shu bizning qo'limizga kelgan dalillar asosida hukmnoma chiqarish va biz chiqargan bu hukmnoma chiqarilgandan keyin boshqalar bu hukmnomani ishlatadi. Yani qabul qildi.
The first, it will provide a permanent body of evidence and a judgment, and it will serve as a permanent reminder of who has committed what crimes.
Birinchidan biz chiqargan hukmnomaning ahamiyati shuki, bu Uyg'ur sud kollegiyasi qo'lga kelgan mustahkam dalillar asosida hukmnoma chiqaradi. Mandaq hukm chiqarilgan hukmnoma yani mangulik holda kimning yoki qaysi davlatning bu xil jinoyat ishlaganligini insonlarga xotirlatib turadi.
And those that perpetrate such crimes should know that it'll be available for a long period of time, and they should remind themselves that crimes that have been perpetrated in the past, including in Nazi Germany, are still being brought to justice now.
Biz chiqargan hukmnomada mushu jinoyatni sodir qildi degan insonlar shuni biladiki, bu hukmnomaning ta'siri mangulik bo'ldi. Mushu o'tgan asrda Yahudilar qartilgan Nazilar o'tkazgan jinoyatni mana hozirgacha sotlayotdi inson xalqaro organlar. Demakki bu sud hukmnomasining mangulik shunday ta'sir bo'ldi.
Secondly, depending on the judgment, it requires states, corporations, educational, art and medical establishments to consider how they interact and what their relationship is with China.
Yani biz chiqargan hukmnomaning qanday bo'lishi qarab turib, nurg'un davlatlar, nurg'un shirkatlar, san'at jamiyasi, muarif, munosabatli organlar va shu nurg'un xalqaro organlar biz chiqargan hukmnomaga qarab turib Xitoy bilan bo'lgan muomalasiga bir qarab chiqdi va uning qarta muomala qildi.
And indeed there are actions in the widest possible sense being considered in a number of government or at least parliament environments throughout the world.
Yana shuni eslashimiz kerakki, bu qarornomadan bu hukmnomadan keyin nurg'un davlat hökumatları ve parlamentlar şu karar boyunca nurg'un hareket planı icra qilishi mumkin.
And lastly, thirdly, it may cause governments to consider the use of sanctions against individuals. And that may include freezing of bank accounts, refusal of granting of visas, and so on.
Yani en ahirki bir nimede taraftan bu hükümname çıkkandan keyin nurg'un davlatlar shu hükümnamega qarab turib shundoq jinoyatlarni sodir qilgan hukumat amaldorlari qarata har xil tadbirlarni elishi mumkin. Bu tadbirlardan masalan eng oddiylari tushunishli bo'lsin uchun masalan viza yoki boyliqlarini to'g'natish va boshqa jazolardek shu jazolarni yo'l qo'yish mumkin.
But it must be understood that all of this is subject to the work of the tribunal, and it has not yet considered the evidence, and it has not yet made any determination.
Shu narsani qayta ta'kidlash kerak. Tehi hozirgacha bu sud kollegiyasi bundaq qarorga, bundaq hukmnomaga kelgani yo'q. Bu hukmnoma kelish uchun biz butun paket va dalillarga qarashimiz kerak. Shuni qarab turib, andan keyin şu deliller nimani ko'rsatgan bo'lsa, shu bo'yicha qarorga kelamiz, hukmnoma chiqaramiz.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question, let me just check a little bit. Oh, yeah. It's a bit long, but I can try to explain it with my own words so it gets more clear. Well, you may be familiar with the matter that there are a lot of Uyghur people who has lost their contact with their family members and friends back home since 2016. And it is a fact that every Uyghur has at least one family member or friends detained in the concentration camps. And in some worst cases, people were not even informed about the death of their family members due to the information restrictions. Therefore, people could not testify for their missing family members because they do not have any information about where they're detained, when they were arrested, and for what reason. So the question is, how can we make this to a legal evidence? Or could you please give us some suggestion about how to turn these cases and those sources in a legal and credence way?
Let me explain them. Mühim sualken 2016-17'lerden keyin Xitoy hukumati mush jazolarga tuzumini yo'l qo'ygan ekan, chet eldagi nurg'un Uyg'urlar ota-onalari tuqqanlari bilan bo'lgan aloqani yo'qotib qo'ydi. Nurg'un oilalarda masalan chet eldagi Uyg'ur oilalarida bir yoki undan ko'p oila a'zolari yo'qolib ketgan, jazolarga kirib ketgan, hatto jazolarlarda o'lib ketgan shunaqa ahvollar jiq. Lekin bu yerda bu jazolarga o'lib ketgan va yo'qolib ketganlar haqida bularning tafsiliy uchurlari ilish imkoniyati yo'q. Shunda bo'lganda bu avvallarda guvohlik berib yoki shuni dalil o'rnida ishlatish uchun qandaq nimalar kerak? Mush haqida bir ma'lumot bersa demoqchi ekan.
Yes, Sir Jeffrey.
Do not worry about what you think may be rules making evidence difficult or impossible for us.
Shu qandaq narsalar dalil bo'ldi, qandaq narsalarni dalil deb qabul qilamiz, mushaqqa shundaq nurg'un qoida qonunlar bor. Bu qoida qonunlar shu dalillar haqida ishlarni shuna murakkablashtirib etgan, lekin sizlar bundan ansiramanglar demoqchi.
If you think something's important, it may very well be important as evidence.
Agar sizlar muhim deb qaragan bir uchur bo'lsa, bu haqiqatan muhim bo'lishi mumkin, haqiqatan u dalil bo'lishi mumkin.
For example, the fact that one individual has not been able to hear anything about a relation for a long period of time is itself important if it is known that that individual has gone to a prison.
Mesela deyli, ma'lum bir shaxs uzundan buyon o'zining yaqinlari haqida hech qanday uchurga ega bo'lolmagan bo'lsa va u yaqini turmada yoki boshqa shundaq joylarda bo'lgan bo'lsa, bu haqiqatan muhim.
But further, if there are tens, 20s, 50s, hundreds, thousands of people giving similar accounts of the disappearance of their friends and relations, it becomes possibly extremely valuable evidence.
Lekin deyli ki, yani şundak avval onlarca adam, yani urug' tuqqanlari yo'qolib ketgan, xabar olinmagan ma'lum bir odamning emas, bu takrorlanib 10, 100, minglarcha odam o'xshash masalalar haqida va yo'qolib ketgan do'stlari, tuqqanlari, shundoq masalalarni haqida guvohlik bergan bo'lsa, bu favqulodda darajada muhim bo'ladi, ishning darajasini favqulodda darajada muhim o'ringa ko'targan bo'ldi.
Because the pattern of evidence on its own, or together with something else, might allow the tribunal properly to make deduction, inference about what is actually going on.
Yani şununla o'xshash dalillar bizning shu Uyg'ur sud mahkamasining haqiqatan nima ishlarning yuz berganligini tushunishimizga va shuning qarada hukm qilishimizga favqulodda foydali bo'ldi.
I don't know if Nick wants to add more.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification and suggestion. Let me see. The next question is from Mr. Samet, and it's very practical. As we all know, there is a fundraising process going on. Could you please explain the purpose of the fund and the distribution of the money?
Bir savol Samet tepe karindishimizdan kelibdi. Bu pul to'plash haqida ekan. Bu to'plangan pullar va bu to'plangan pullarning nimaga ishlatish haqida bir tushuntirish talab qilgan savol ekan.
Well, firstly, the tribunal is now a large endeavor. There are many people involved in it, and we are considering tens of thousands of pages of evidence.
Şunu bilishimiz kerak, bu Uyg'ur sud kollegiyasi bag'ansiri cho'nglayotidi, bir cho'ng bir qurilma. Nurg'un kishilar ishlaydi, nurg'un kishilarning mush ishga aralashishiga ehtiyojimiz bor. Mesela hozir 10 ming batdan ortiq dalil isbotlar to'plandi, ya'ni buni bir taraf qilish, tarjima qilish, uni analiz qilish degandek nurg'un insonlar bu ishga aralishishi kerak.
And as Sir Jeffrey has indicated, the tribunal members and some of the senior people involved, including counsel to the tribunal and our head of research, are working for no money, are working pro bono.
Biraz burun Jeffrey Efendi so'zlagandek, Uyg'ur sud kollegiyasining a'zolari, peshqadamlari, maslahatchilari qatorliq insonlar asosan bekor ishlaydi.
But because of the volume of evidence, we have now, I believe, 12 researchers, young people, researchers, working on sifting the evidence so that it is usable.
Shundoq bo'lsa, shuni bilishimiz kerakki, to'plangan dalillarning hajmining ko'p bo'lishi sababidan hozir 12 yosh tadqiqotchi shu dalillarga birdan-bir qarab, buning foydali va bizning ishimizga yaraydigan dalillarni olib chiqish uchun shunday kechikib ishlayotdi.
And because this will go on for in excess of 1 year, Sir Jeffrey and I believe it is right that these young people should be paid, and they will be.
Bu yani qisqa muddatli ish emas, 1 yil atrofida davomlashadigan uzun muddatli xizmat bo'lgani uchun bu 12 tadqiqotchi va boshqalar cho'qim bir pulga ishlash kerak, bu haqqini olish kerak. Buni to'g'ri deb qaraymiz.
The evidence will have been dealt with and packaged by the end of January of next year, and then the tribunal members will read the evidence that is given to them. It will not be all the thousands of pages, but it will be a condensed package.
Endi shu kelgan dalil isbotlarni bu tadqiqotchilarimiz tekshirib aniqlab, kelar yili yanvar oylarigacha uni ixchamlashtirib, ixchamalga eklib shu sotga topshirdi. Biz bo'lmasa 10-20 ming betlik narsani sot o'qib olmaydi. Demak, o'shani ishlaydiganga shu yoshlar kerak.
And then in April and then again in September, there will be 2 in-person public hearings open to the public, which will consider witnesses, both victim witnesses and expert witnesses. And that will involve a period of probably 3 to 5 days for each hearing.
Ondan keyin aldığımız yıl aprelda, yani şu bütün deliller ixchamlanıp süzülüp olgandan keyin aprel ve sentabr aylardakiler yılı şu guvaçılar qatnaşkan 2 qatimliq sot boludu. Bu sotda yalğız guvaçılarning guvalığı emas, mutaxassislarning guvalığı bunu anlap ötümüz. Her bir sot 3 günden 5 güngacha davom qilishi mumkin.
And at these hearings will be expensive. We will have to hire a conference room, camera people, translators, and other facilities. And when that is finished, there will then be probably 3 or 4 months thereafter when the tribunal members will write the judgment, will make the judgment and then write it. Do you want to do that?
Yeah. Bu sot, yani guvalık sotları ahırlaşkandan keyin yani bu sot jarayoni nayta qimmat bir jarayon, chunki u yerda şu konferans uylarini ijaraga olishimiz mumkin, uningga kameralar, andan tarjimonlar, nurg'un narsalar aralashadi. Shularning hammasiga pul to'laymiz. Bütün şu sotlar ahırlaşkandan keyin şu toplangan, anglagan şu deliller asasida şu sotchilar 3-4 ay sarf qilib, bergan qarorining sababini yozishga 3-4 ay vaqt ketadi.
The judgment itself will be a significant document, and Sir Jeffrey has just held up the China Tribunal judgment, which he'll correct me, but I think ran to 600 pages.
Yani bu hükümname nayt mükemmel bir hükümname oldu. Çünkü aldın katımlık Xitay şu organ yötkeş hakkıdaki çıkargan hükümname mı? Benim esimde kılışçı 600 bettin aşkan şu düşendirişki tolgan edi. Şu Uyghur sotunun hükümnamesi mi? Onun köp bosu buldu deydi. Belki köp buluş mümkün deydi.
So the cost of the entire tribunal from beginning to end, we estimate will be approximately £285,000 or $375,000.
Yani şu Uyghur Sot Kollegiyyəsinin kuruluşdan ta ahırlaşkıçımız başkışta getirilen toplam çıkımını biz tahminen 375,000 Amerika dolları da tahmin kıvatımız.
To date, we have raised approximately half that amount.
Biz allaqaçan bunun yarımını toplap bulduk.
And so if you can assist us with the remainder, that would be excellent. And you can do that either by contacting Mweta or visiting our website, www.uyghurtribunal.com, or going to the crowdfunding page, which Mweta can give you details of, or you can find it on the website.
Şuna bo'lganda 20 hozirgi shu to'planib bo'ldi, ammo qolgan 20ning to'planishi uchun sizlarning yordaminglarga muhtoj, yordam qilsanglar yaxshi bo'ldi. Bu yordamni har xil yo'llar bilan yo'llay olasizlar. Bizning shu Uyg'ur sotining maxsus tor beti bor. U tor betdimi iyona qilish nimalari bor yoki o'zinglarning tashkilotlari orqali shunday yo'llab bersanglarmi bo'ldi. Buni yo'llashning har xil yo'llari bor, shuni nim qila olasizlar.
I'm happy to take more specific questions, but that's it.
Yes, great. Thank you. And the next question is from Akbade Tursun from Holland. It's about the testimonies, actually. Let me see. As we all know, one of the most important part of the preparation process is to collect evidence. Could you please explain a bit more about the selection process of this evidence? What type of evidence do you think is more valuable than the others? And the following up question is, will those testimonies be exposed at a certain point, like during the tribunal or after the tribunal?
So will they be what? Will they be what in full? Didn't hear the word.
Oh, will they be exposed, like open, like on public?
Public, yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry. Go on.
Masval Gollandiyadan kapti. Shu guvohlik berish haqida haqidagi savol ekan, muhim savol ekan. Shu dalillarning to'planishi, andan keyin to'plangan dalillar ichida foydali dalillarning tanlanishi, shu bosqichlar qanday bo'ldi? Qanday dalillar texmo qimmatli bo'lishi mumkin? Yana bu dalillar to'planib, shu hukmnoma berilish oldida yoki berilgandan keyin bu to'plangan dalil va bu dalil bilan ta'minlangan insonlarning ismlari sirtqa oshkoralanadi degandek, shu haqidagi savol ekan.
It isn't easy to answer the question, this is the best evidence and that is the least good.
Yani bu savolga shu qaysi dalilning yaxshi yoki qimmatli ekanligi savolga javob berish unda oson emas. Hamma dalil qimmatli dalil.
And sometimes evidence that one person will think is not very important is important when put beside other evidence.
Ba'zida ma'lum odamning muhim emas deb qaragan dalili başka bir adamның başka dalil bilan birlashtirganda muhim bir dalilga aylanishi mumkin.
Our researchers, led by Aldo Zamit Borda, supervised by Hamid Sabi, and with others including Arif Abraham helping, are separating out the evidence with careful thinking into what is likely to be the most valuable.
Bizning bu yerda maxsus bir guruhimiz bor. Hamid Sabi, Arif va boshqalarga o'xshash. Bu mutaxassislarimiz butun dalillar qarab chiqib, bu dalillarning shu biz da'vatgan jinoiy qilmishlarga munosabatli qismlarini olib chiqadi.
Often, of course, live evidence from an individual of something that happened to him or her, or that she or he sees, can be the most valuable.
Bo'lib shu jonliq paket yoki jonliq dalil deb qaragan dalillarni aytib muhim bo'ldi. Bu jonliq dalil deganimiz shu shaxs bevosita o'zi anglagan yoki beshidan o'tkazgan yoki beshidan o'tkazganlardan bevosita tuygan, bilgan shunday birinchi qo'l paketlarni aytib muhim paketlar hisoblanadi.
But also, documents can be of immense value.
Yani birisi hujjatlar. Buning favqulodda muhim ahamiyati bor.
For example, statements by the Communist Party or the People's Republic itself of a policy about Uyghurs, or a document explaining why someone was incarcerated, or a document explaining the apparent reason for someone's death, they can be very valuable.
Mesela şu hükümetnin çıkargan bevasıta hüccetleri yoki şu hükümetnin siyasetleri hakkında çıkargan belgilemeleri yoki ma'lum insonning nima deb yo'qolib ketganligi yoki nima deb o'lganligi haqida hükümet e'lon qilgan har qanday hujjatlik materiallarni aytib qimmatli.
Our researchers understand this, they're separating the material out, and we're not letting anything vanish. We're just, because we will always be able to find it, but we're separating out and getting ready to use the best bits of evidence for the tribunal.
Bizning tadqiqotchilarimiz bu ishni obdan biladi. Bu tadqiqotchilarimiz butun dalillarga qaragandan keyin ularni orib chiqadi. Oragandan keyin biz uni qandaq yerda qandaq ishlatish shuni obdan bilamiz. Shunlashqa har qandaq dalil, ya'ni muhim dalil hisoblanadi. Probably last part of the question at any point
I think
whether. Yeah, I say okay.
So we are fully aware that those providing evidence may cause themselves or indeed their families to be put in danger. And so we do not want any evidence made publicly available that would do that. We will have, and we are indeed just setting this up at the moment. In fact, it was a matter of discussion 2 hours ago, a safe place to put evidence, which is sensitive and may pose danger to providers.
Yeah, biz shuni nayt obdan bilamiz. Shu dalil, ispat va guvohlik bilan ta'minlagan qarindoshlarimiz agar ularning ismlari oshkor bo'lib qolsa, bularga yoki bularning oila tavobatlariga Xitoy davlat tarafidan har xil ziyonkashlik kelishi mumkin. Buni biz obdan bilamiz. Shunlashqa bu yolg'iz dalillarning emas, dalilni ta'minlaguvchilarning bu uchurlarni bexatar holda saqlash, buni ching saqlash haqida atrofliq muzokaralarimiz bor.
So there will be a number of ways that we will deal with this, and we will have to determine that. But for instance, it could be that evidence is provided without a name, and for instance, the name may only be provided to the chair, Sir Geoffrey Nice. But there will be other ways of doing this. But this is the most important thing in our mind.
Yani bunun bizmi bir qancha mushaqqada tadbirlarni avatimiz. Masalan, yolg'iz bu dalillarni bexatar yerda saqlash yoki dalillarga chiqishlam emas. Yana bir jihatdan shu dalil ta'minlaguvchilar agar o'zlarining bexatarligidan ansiragan bo'lsa, faqat ism ishlatmay yoki birla ism ishlatib yoki bo'lmaydi ismlarni shu Uyg'ur sot kollegiyasining raisi bo'lgan Geoffrey Nice epandiga lam berib, boshqalarga oshkorlamaslikda har xil shartlar ostida bu dalillarni yo'llasi bo'ldi. Ularni bexatarligi biz kafolat qilamiz.
But we have not yet determined precisely how to do this, but it'll be something along those lines. But that really will be a matter for Sir Geoffrey to determine.
Mushaqqada biz hozir nayt muzokara olib beryapmiz. Eng oxirgi qarorga kelmadik, lekin bu qaror qilish undaq bir cho'ng masala deb qaramayman. Bu Geoffrey Nice apandi ma'lum bir nuqta kelganda mushaqqada o'zining qarorini beradi. Mencha bu oladigan tadbirlarning hammasini hozirdan boshlab muzokara qilishga boshladik.
Thank you. This is the last question, and it's very short, and it's from me. Do you have anything you would like to say to the Uyghur people living in exile? It's for both of you.
Yeah, eng oxirgi savolim qisqa. Eng oxirida shu Uyg'ur xalqiga deydigan bir so'zinglar bormi? Eskartishinglar bormi?
Well, as hopefully we've made clear, we will deal with everything impartially, balanced, but we hope we can bring justice one way or another to those against whom it is alleged that crimes have been committed.
Şu narsani aniq yana bir qatam ta'kidlamoqchiman. Biz bu masalaga tarafsiz holda muomala qilyapmiz. Ya'ni biz qanday shaklda bo'lmasin, bu jinoyat ishlangan ekan, bu jinoyatni ishlagan yoki bu jinoyatni sodir qiluvchilarning adolat oldiga kelib jazolanishini kutamiz. Shu sababdanmi bizning bu tarafsiz qarorimiz hukmnomamiz muhim.
I agree.
Men qo'shilaman.
Supporting this tribunal means giving support to the Uyghur people in their search for truth and justice. It also means giving support for a mechanism that confronts an international order that wishes sometimes to keep the truth from world citizens.
Mening bu burun deyilganlar qo'shilish bilan birga shuni deb qo'ygim keladi. Bu sotni, bu Uyg'ur sot kollegiyasini qo'llaganlik Uyg'urlarning adolatni izlash, haqiqatni izlashdan iborat shu yo'lini qo'llaganlik bo'ldi. Chunki hozirgi shunday murakkab bir dunyoda mavjud dunyo tuzilmasiga qarata nurg'un ilib borgan tirishchanliklarimiz bizning haqiqatni o'ttirg'i chiqishimizga to'sqinlik bo'lib kelgan. Shunda bo'lg'achqa haqiqatlar ba'zi vaqtida oshkor o'ttirg'i chiqmay qoldi. Bizning bu Uyg'ur soti hamda asosan shu haqiqat va adolatni o'ttirg'i chiqish uchun qurildi. Shunlashqa bu sotni qo'llash, mundaqcha aytganda Uyg'urlarning adolat va haqiqatni tepishini qo'llash bo'lib hisoblanadi.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to close our session. I'd like to thank the audience for joining us to this important panel discussion, and I'd also like to thank our panelists, Sir Jeffrey Nice and Mr. Nick Batch, for sharing their expertise today, and also the important effort to address the human rights issues in China. And also a special thanks to Mr. Nanatoti for interpreting for us and for our audiences.
Thank you.